As the eldest son of the Polo family, Marco is striving to provide for his younger siblings. After a strange and unfortunate shipwreck, Marco finds himself in Asia, a place he was warned never to visit. Soon he realizes he is at the cusp of an unexpected journey, where he will have to choose between protecting his family or saving the world. And with that, welcome to another first impression. Today we will talk about the webtoon called Super String, Marco Polo's Travel to the Multiverse. There is already so much to say from the summary and title alone, but before that I have another bomb to drop on you guys. The artist of this webtoon is actually Boichi, a name many of you might recognize because that is the person who was also the artist for Dr. Stone, a very popular manga that recently ended in the Shonen Jump magazine. When I noticed that, I was so freaking excited as I really love Dr. Stone, and Boichi's art style played a big part in that. Knowing that the artist has a very successful background is already a good starting point. But now the writer Inwan Yon only has to do his part as well. But enough about the people behind this webtoon, it's time to talk about what we learned from the summary. Naming your main character Marco Polo is such a wild thing to do. I know that it's also an actual person, but I just know it from the water game people play in the pools. If it was a comedy series, I would instantly be like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But this is a serious fantasy story as far as I can tell. Multiverses are always interesting to see, however I also have to say that those can go either way and be ultra amazing or just mediocre. One of my biggest questions is probably why Marco was born about Asia. The easiest answer would be that Asia is the center point of the multiverse, but we will have to read it to find out more details. I'm already certain that the plot of this webtoon will escalate completely. If the summary starts out with Marco wanting to take care of his family and ends with him having to save the world, we are in for a ride. But that's enough talk about those parts. For this video we will investigate chapter 0, which is the prologue, and chapters 1 to 5. And as always, here is your obligatory spoiler warning before we dive right into the chapters. Oh boy, where should I even begin? Super String Marco Polo's Travel to the Multiverse is positively confusing in my opinion, and just leaves me asking so many questions. And all that after just a prologue and 5 chapters. The prologue showed us a lot of things. In a way, it did not even really feel like a prologue and more like a trailer for the webtoon. However, it was still interesting to see. It offered us a first look at fantastical creatures and multiple characters, so I can already say that the designs are, as expected, amazing. Boichi just doesn't miss when it comes to art, that much is for sure. In this story, there will be something for everyone, and I can already tell you that. While I'm still unsure what actual path this story might take, it could actually turn out to be quite dark, with a bad guy that actually feels scary. Some pretty graphic moments have also already happened, and just a little bit of blackmail on top of all of that. So I'm interested to see how this will all develop in the future. Besides dark elements, Marco Polo has also done a few comedy bits. The expressions I got so used to from Dr. Stone really helped in those situations, but sometimes the gags also fell a bit short for me. Our protagonist Marco Polo seems to be an average guy with a good heart. There may have been hints for the Chosen One trope, but it could also turn out to be something different. Marco is an upstanding guy who basically takes every imaginable job just to support his younger siblings and make sure that they are happy and have a good life in general. However, on the shadowy bad side of this webtoon, I also have to tell you it feels pretty fast paced. Just in 5 chapters, Marco did more stuff than some protagonists do in over 20 chapters. And that only was possible because of jump cuts. And I hated those. It really did feel all over the place, and those missing travel sequences made some parts feel quite disconnected from each other. In the end, I'm still confused about everything that is going on in the story. Marco Polo had a start that left me and also many other people's puzzled. While we understood what was going on in front of us, it still felt a bit jumbled, if that is the right word. We really need to slow down the pacing and get the story going, And with that, we come to the current big goal of our hero, Marco Polo. He is a smart guy, and if you were attentive, you already heard me describe him as a good guy as well. He takes care of his younger siblings and all of these things. So when multiverse shenanigans started to happen, his goal quickly became returning back home to continue his normal life with his family. However, things are never that easy. It just makes sense for webtoons. I already know that the future chapters will only make it more complicated, and the summary also hinted at that, with the decision of either protecting his family or saving the world. Big stakes are already being placed. The main character has some sort of important item on him. This item is connected to multiverse travel, so it will be really relevant for the story. And it will also offer us big lore drops in the future. Talking about lore, we also got a good look at the backstory of Marco, which made him way more interesting, but also opened up even more questions. So yes, one thing that keeps on happening in the story is that every single chapter we get more and more questions. Hopefully at least some of them will be answered quickly and we don't have to wait 100 chapters for one answer. Another positive point I have to tell you about is the character connections. While interactions seem to be a bit fast as well and maybe only a tiny bit unreal, the connections between different characters all made sense. In other series, it sometimes feels like connections are forced together, just so that characters know each other already and there is no need for big introductions. But in Marco Polo, it fits together really well, just like a satisfying puzzle. The fact that the chapters just flew by is also important. This is a combination of them being on the shorter side compared to other webtoons, but also me getting sucked into the story's world, so that's quite positive. I might not understand everything that is happening, but I want to read more to find those answers. Now for the current situation. This rarity of a logically thinking main character just traveled into what I believe to be our universe, or at least one similar to ours. They talked about advanced technology, but it might just be from the perspective of Marco, as everything looked pretty ordinary to me. Things are currently heating up with the introduction of multiple relevant factions, and also what I do believe to be the power system that could appear over the course of this story. One character called it complex, not in a way to describe it, but just calling it by its name. And if that really is the case, it will probably be a big complex mess. With a bit more research, I also found out that this story is part of an actual story multiverse that is going on Webtoon. So some of the webtoons included in that multiverse are Jungle Juice, Reawakened Man, Terra Man, and Blade of the Phantom Master. Personally, I know all of them by name and actually tried some of them before, and they are all really well done, so I have high hopes for Marco Polo as well. And also just learning that all of these stories are connected makes me even more excited. I love these kind of stories where other stories are intertwined together with them. Over 10 different stories are connected to each other, building a very complex universe. And in a writer's perspective, I just have to say how insanely impressive that is. To enjoy a story, you don't need to read the others, and yet sometimes it can help you in noticing cameos and make it all even more entertaining. But let us not lose track. This video is about Superstring Marco Polo's travel to the multiverse, not any of the other stories. So let's get to my conclusion. Overall, Marco Polo is an interesting story that does a lot right. From great art style, character design and character writing, to also impressive battlefields and an intriguing plot. But that doesn't stop the negative factors from being quite apparent as well. The fast pacing, the jump cuts, and also the many difficulties of having a coherent story. The already mentioned pacing problems are probably my biggest complaint, but that is just how much they bother me. Hopefully they can be fixed, because the premise is right up my alley and I really want to like the story. After just 5 chapters, I cannot give a final verdict, and some people might already love it at the stage it has currently reached, but I am a bit more critical. You all know that, I think. The link to this webtoon is in the description if you want to give it a try yourself. I would love to hear more people's opinions about it, so feel free to post whatever opinions you have in the comments. But that's all I have to say for now about the story. So everything that is left to be said is stay happy, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay cultured. Pyro, out. Bye!